I am saying. It is because you cannot hear my word. You are of your father the devil, and you want to do the desires of your father. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth because there is no truth in him. Whenever he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own nature, for he is a liar and the father of lies. The question is, who influences you will determine what you believe in. If you will have a discernment for what is true and what is not, what is a lie, what is not. And this is more true today than ever. You see all around us loss of common sense, people making irrational, totally judgments, not knowing the truth in this world. Why? Because they've been influenced by evil and by lies, and they are deceived, not knowing that they are deceived, not knowing the difference between right and wrong, a boy and a girl, not knowing what is sin, what is not, what is true, what is false. They're deceived and they do not know it. Children of the devil, unfortunately, as Jesus said here very directly, because they are assuming or taking in the nature of the devil by living and believing in lies. And that's what happens when people are influenced by lies and they take them in. They do not confront the lies. And that's why it's so important that we believe the truth, that we seek the truth, and wherever it leads us. But somebody starts sinning, and it feels good, they like it, and they make excuses for their sin. No, it's okay, everybody does it. Next time they don't feel so bad anymore. Next time they don't feel bad at all, and then start living the lie that it's okay to live in that kind of state, practicing sin and being deceived. Jesus says, warn them. The devil, he is a liar. When he speaks, he is speaking lies. That's his primary language. Imagine that. That's what he speaks. That's the language he speaks. Like somebody speaks German, English, he speaks lies. He's a master of deception. And how many of you know that if someone is deceived, he doesn't know it, right? Being deceived means you do not know you're being deceived. And that's the state of the world today. People have no idea that they're irrational and that they're following their own desires and lies from the devil. And that's why they are enslaved, they're in a prison, and that's why they need to know the truth, and the truth will set them free, so they will realize that what they've been living in is a lie from the enemy. It's a gradual thing. I'll tell you a little story, a sad story. My best friend in high school today is a homosexual. And he was a good kid back then, and I talked about Jesus to him, and we talked about Jesus quite a bit. Now we haven't talked in a long time, but he was a good kid, smart, funny. You would have liked him. We were close. It was usually me and him and two girls. He dated one of the girls, so it usually was the four of us together. He dated one of these girls for one time, and I was supposed to date the other one, but she wasn't Barbara, nowhere near. So I survived peer pressure. She was pretty. Sorry, it's the truth. But Barbara is so much more that she would pick somebody like me, pretty from the inside and outside she is. And this guy, this friend of mine, one day he came to school, and I will remember it as it was yesterday. He told me about a party that he went that he shouldn't have gone to. He told me about drinking one too many beers that he shouldn't have done. He told me about ending up at another man's house. And I can still see the fear in his eyes. And he was confused. And I tried to talk to him and help him and kind of guide him through this, but he drifted away. He didn't want to know anything more. And he went his own way, even after I tried to reach out to him. And today I only see sad pictures of what has become of him online sometimes. If you go into the wrong train, we talked about this in Sunday school, Irvin brought it very well. What do you do if you get into the wrong train? He said, it doesn't help you if you go to the last seat. I thought it was fantastic. If you're in the wrong train, it doesn't help you where you sit. But if you go in the wrong train, what do? You get off in the next stop, right? The next station you hop off, because the longer you stay in the wrong train, going in the wrong direction, the harder it will be to come back, the longer it will take to come back, the costlier it will be to come back. And we're not talking about trains, are we? We all sin. We all make mistakes. We go on the wrong train sometimes, if you will. But you get off as soon as you can. Because the longer you stay in it, and then you start living practice of sin, and you convince yourself it's okay, everybody is doing it. You start believing a lie, and you start being deceived by a lie, and you start being possessed by that lie. And you are in chains, and you're enslaved, and it's more difficult to come back. That's why you need to know the truth that can and will actually set you free, instead of living like the Jews, inclined to do the will of their father, the devil, who was a liar, who was a murderer. The Pharisee solution was kill Jesus, right? That's what they wanted to do. That comes from the devil. Verse 45, Jesus said, "But because I speak the truth, you do not believe me. Which one of you convicts me of sin? If I speak truth, why do you not believe me? He who is of God hears the words of God. For this reason, you do not hear them, because you're not of God." They traded the truth for lies. Paul talks about it in Romans chapter 1 in great detail. Verse 48, the Jews answered and said to him, "Do we not say right that you're a Samaritan and that you have a demon?" Jesus answered, "I do not have a demon, but I honor my Father, and you dishonor me. But I do not seek my glory. There is one who seeks and judges. Truly, truly, I say to you, if anyone keeps my word, he will never see death." They are offended, and what do people who are offended do? Who is offended tries to offend others, tries to hurt, criticize, start rumors, lie, hurt in some way or another. That's what people who are offended do. We should become unoffendable. Know the truth, be set free. Know the truth about ourselves, so nobody can really hurt us, because we know, what the worst they can say is not as bad as the truth. I really like that. We learn with Jesus, how to respond when somebody tries to offend us. They call him demon-possessed, they call him Samaritan. Isn't that funny? Next time you want to insult somebody, you call them a Samaritan. Yeah, don't do that. But that's what they tried to do here. And Jesus responds, he says, "You know what? I'm not seeking my own glory. It doesn't matter what you think. I'm not trying to find your approval. You're dishonoring me because I'm speaking the truth. But I don't need your approval. I'm not even seeking my own glory. Doesn't matter what you think. There's one who seeks his glory and judges." And then Jesus says, "He who keeps my word will never die." Like the same verse we started with. If you keep the word, if you continue, if you abide in the word, you'll never die. Jesus is telling these Jews that are trying to kill him, there's a way for you to be free. There's a way for you to live forever. Verse 52, the Jews said to him, "Now we know that you have a demon. Abraham died and the prophets also, and you say, if anyone keeps my word, he will never taste of death. Surely you are not greater than our father Abraham, who died. The prophets died too. Whom do you make yourself out to be?" They say, all of our heroes, our ancestors, our role models, they all died. Who do you think you are? And they don't understand that Jesus is speaking about spiritual death, not physical death. They're always thinking about the body, about the building, about traditions, about laws, earthly things that didn't matter. And Jesus is talking, I will give you life eternal, spiritual life eternal, which is so much better than even life on this earth. 54, Jesus answered, "If I glorify myself, my glory is nothing. It is my Father who glorifies me, of whom you say he is our God. And you have not come to know him, but I know him. And if I say that I do not know him, I will be a liar like you. But I do know him and keep his word." He is speaking truth again, very plainly. And some of these things we heard before, because he is repeating some of these things over and over in the book of John, trying to convince those Jews that are trying to kill him that they can come to the Father, that they can come to him, that they can be saved. And he is saying, I am from the Father. I know him. And they get offended. He is speaking the truth, and they're mad. You're boasting, you're arrogant. Have you ever felt that you're being arrogant for speaking the truth? And Jesus is saying here, it's funny actually, because he says, I could lie, not offend you, deny that I know the Father, but then I'll be like you. That's what he just said. That I will be a liar like you, but I do know him, and I keep his word. Last portion here, 56 to 59. Your father Abraham, he rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it, and he was glad. So the Jews said to him, you are not yet 50 years old, and you have seen Abraham? Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was born, I am. Therefore, they picked up stones to throw at him, but Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple. So Jesus comes before time. So of course he knows Abraham. And Abraham rejoiced thinking about the day when Jesus would come. Because Abraham is not the father of the Israelites only. He was called to be a blessing to all nations. Right? Right hand, left hand. Father Abraham has many children. That's for all of us. Father of many nations. So he rejoiced over Jesus, and the Jews couldn't keep it together. They picked up stones. They were so enraged. We started the chapter with the Pharisees holding stones in their hand. We finished the chapter with the Pharisees again holding stones in their hands. First trying to kill the woman caught in adultery, now trying to kill Jesus. What does Jesus do? He runs away, he hides, he leaves. I find it strange. I find it interesting, actually. He lived on purpose. He had a plan and a strategy. You know, sometimes it's good to know when you need to run and hide. You need to be good at it. Know when to disappear. Play hide and seek. Know the best spots in the temple. Jesus probably knew where to go when the crowd was pushing on him and he had to sneak through them real quick. There is a man, I read his book, a Chinese missionary called Brother Yun. He memorized entire books of the Bible because in China back then, having a Bible was forbidden and there were no Bibles available. I think he started with the book of Matthew. It's been a long time since I read the book, so I may be wrong on a few things. But he will run from one village to another. And then he will gather in a house a little group of people more in secret. And he'll close his eyes and then he'll start. From the beginning of Matthew all the way to the end, and people would just sit there and listen to the book because he didn't have any Bible, and he would recite everything that he could remember. I know today people get a little bit restless, right, if we stay too long listening to the Bible or to the teachings. And then this man, he was arrested. Brother Yun, he was arrested. He suffered more than many of us could ever imagine. They broke his legs. He was in prison many times and starved. And he also experienced extraordinary miracles of healing, of escaping prisons, of escaping guards that were coming to arrest him. You could read his book. It's called Heavenly Man. I met him in Brazil many years ago, and later I met his son here in the States. We had supper together. His son is a preacher in Germany now. And he said one of these things, I'm probably not going to quote it perfectly, but something like this. He said, always be ready to preach, always be ready to suffer, and always be ready to run. And I thought it was strange or funny, right? Because I'm a Christian, I'm not running. I'm standing my ground. But he was ready to run, and he ran many times. And here we see Jesus doing the same thing. He is hiding because he is following God's leading, because he has a strategy, he has a plan where he is going to the cross for you and for me. And that's how we should live, on purpose for God. Persevere in his word. Continue in his word. Keep his word so that you will know the truth, know Jesus, and he will set you free. And when the Son sets you free, you are free indeed. I want to pray.